Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back for another episode. This is Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and you are listening to the Networking RX podcast. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for subscribing. Today, I want to talk about compliments. There was a professor, he actually was a columnist. He had a syndicated column in the 20th century. George Washington Crane. And he taught a social psychology class at Northwestern University. And what he asked his students to do was he asked his students each day for 30 days, they were to give someone a compliment, anyone, an honest compliment. And he called this the Compliment Club. Fair enough statement. And I first read about this, and I've been actually doing some research on it. I read about it years ago in a book by John Maxwell, Winning with People. And in that book, and I made notes on it, and I have lots of notes on lots of things, as you can well imagine. I made notes on it and am releasing a 1-minute podcast on it called The Compliment Club, coming out in a few weeks. But again, he just asked his students, he said, you just go about and find somebody, anybody, didn't really matter, and just make an honest compliment. Something that was genuine. Just note things in people and go ahead and make a compliment about it. And apparently some of the students resisted. While, I don't know that I can know if people, I'm uncomfortable with it. I don't know what to compliment people on or whatever it might be. But he persisted, and this is the assignment. You're supposed to compliment other people. And then, during the project, and this wasn't surprising, Crane's students noted that their sincere compliments had a positive impact on those around them. In other words, when you compliment somebody, and again, this is nothing new, it lifts the person you praise, and this is what the students were finding. In fact, there was a saying, there's a saying out there, and it's been printed in lots of places. It was actually credited to a comedian, Robert Orban, but that can't be true because it was around long before that. At any rate, the phrase is, a compliment is verbal sunshine. And that's been around for a long time. So Crane had this compliment club, and the reason I say it had to be around before 1988 is because in doing my research, Crane had indicated as he was inviting people to join join the compliment club, spread verbal sunshine. He had used that term for many years, and the compliment club had been around it had to be around for a long time, to be honest, because he wrote an article on it in his syndicated newspaper, in his syndicated column that appeared in a newspaper back as far as July of 1957, and was advocating people join his compliment club, which is something he'd already done in his classes. So the people around who are giving compliments notice that they're raising up the lives of the people they're complimenting. When you tell someone, "Wow, you've lost weight, you look great," you immediately spur them on to, "Wow, I'm doing something wonderful," and they're going to be spurred on to maybe shed that last 5 or 10 pounds, or 25 if you're me, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of merit in giving compliments. And just to remind you, the purpose of the compliment is not to make others like you. They probably will, but that's not the purpose of it. But the purpose of the compliment is certainly to be genuine, but it's a form of generosity. It's a form of enriching the lives of others around you. And it really doesn't take any special skill to stop and tell somebody, wow, I really like that tie or that jacket you're wearing, or I really appreciate how hard you're working. It doesn't really take a special skill or anything. It just takes a little bit of time to notice these things and then genuinely formulate it into something that you can share with them. And again, in a genuine fashion. And it lifts them up, lets them know you're looking, um, and kind of not pigeonholes you, but positions you as a giver, as a giver to other people. Now, here's the question that really, you need to come to grips with. The notion of the compliment club is easy. 30 days, give somebody a compliment. I've been looking into it. I don't know that he had them journal it or whatever. I assume there was some sort of journaling and having to turn in the journal, and people, indicated how they felt about things. What it probably did was it probably lifted up the people who were giving compliments as well, because when we do things for other people, we get that warm feeling inside. Certainly, a lot of times people will reciprocate. I really appreciate how hard you work. Well, I appreciate how hard you lead or how you lead the team. Or I appreciate this about you. Hey, you had a great game. Well, you had a great game too. And so, obviously there are people out there who fish for compliments, and that's not what I'm advocating at all. But what I'm basically saying is that when you compliment other people, that they're going to tend to reciprocate. They're going to try and find something nice about you, even if it's, wow, I really appreciate you taking the time to compliment me. That's very thoughtful. Well, someone telling you you're thoughtful is a compliment in and of itself. So when we give compliments to other people, compliments come back and we feel good. But even if they don't come back, we still feel good because we have helped raise up this other person. So the purpose of compliments is not to make others like you. That'll happen, but it's just a form of generosity. Now, the neat thing about the compliment club is it was a club. It was part of a class, and even though students probably resisted, hesitated, as students do, well, people do, not just students. I assume many followed through, having to get a grade, and complied, and that's great. Um, but how do you how do you implement a compliment club in your own world? How do you make complimenting a habit? Now, certainly, if you have a teacher, you have a boss, you have some sort of superior figure who holds sway over you, a job, a grade, whatever, and asking you to do something, you're going to comply. But if you don't have that, how do you get into the habit of giving compliments? Sincerely giving compliments. Well, I read another book. I first learned about this again in John Maxwell's book, Winning with People. But I stumbled across another book, and I believe John mentioned it in his. It's called not was called is called NonStop Networking by a author Andrea Nierenberg, Nierenberg. Go ahead. You can look her up on LinkedIn. She's got excuse me, on LinkedIn. Well, certainly on LinkedIn, but you can look her up on Amazon. She's got a number of books out there: Networking for College Students, $1 Million Networking, Savvy Networking, and Networking for Veterans, and then her book Nonstop Networking. Well, she had a suggestion in the Nonstop Networking book to kind of help you become intentional with respect to making compliments. And what she advocated doing, and I have a suggestion as well, but what she advocated doing is starting the day with 5 pennies in your left pocket. And the objective was to get the pennies from the left pocket to the right pocket. But to move them from the left pocket to the right pocket, you needed to give a genuine compliment to somebody. And what that does is it helps keep you focused on making a compliment. So these pennies are jingling around in your left pocket, or from right to left. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. However it works for you. But when these pennies are jingling around in your pocket, it makes you it makes you aware that, okay, I need to be looking for things. I need to be listening for things. I need to get these pennies from my left pocket to my right pocket. And obviously the only person holding sway over you is yourself and your own conscience and your own commitment to yourself. But if you're going to make a promise to yourself, you're going to follow through with it, or you should follow through with it. And so as these pennies are jingling around, it's a constant reminder. Not my suggestion, but another thought would be, I've seen people who set reminders on their phones. I've seen people who've set reminders on their phones to do these sorts of things. A couple times a day, just a quick little message comes off and just reminds them, okay, yeah, I need to be doing this. But that's not for me. I have a reminder that goes off every day. It's what I call my gratitude interlude. Just makes me stop and think about something I'm grateful for, just to pay attention and take note of it. That's once a day. I can't imagine something going off 3 or 4 times a day. To me, that would be annoying. But if it works for you and gets you in the habit of making compliments, then go for it. But the suggestion I had to do with a podcast I had released earlier this year on what I called the Giving Journal. If you remember back to June of 2021, June of the last year, not this year, last year now, June 2021, I released episode 339, which is entitled The Giving Journal. In that episode, if you want to go listen to it, I talked about how I became intentional giving. And it really involved, I don't know, and go listen to the episode. I won't repeat the whole episode, but I came very intentional in it because I just had created a journal. It was just a simple little notebook where I would note in there things I would do. And some of the things I would note was just giving people compliments. Took the time to give somebody a compliment, took the time to send somebody an email and tell them I appreciated what they had done for me, took the time to tell somebody that, I appreciated the extra effort they were doing, or sent a card or whatever it might be. But that was all part of my Giving Journal efforts. So that's certainly another way that you can be more intentional about giving compliments. And compliments are a very inexpensive way of being generous. It's a very inexpensive way. It's a very simple way of endearing yourself to the people around you. So as you move through today, think of a couple people that you can compliment and take action on it. And do whatever it is that you need to do. Pennies in your pocket, create a journal, whatever. Make a plan or make a commitment that every day on social media you're going to compliment somebody. Make a public declaration of some way you appreciate, why you appreciate somebody in your life, and you can tag them with it. So there's lots of different ways that you can go about exercising the notion of being complimentary to other people and building your network in the process. Because I'm telling you, when you compliment others, they will take note. They will absolutely take note, and it will come back to benefit you. Give it a try.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.